Let's take a look at shell redirection, the next big topic. This is an important one. I hope you take the time to understand how this works. This is also referred to as input-output redirection. So what we're going to do is we're going to take, let's say, run a program. And a running program is referred to as a process. And we're going to use these shell input-output redirection operators to save the output of a running program, that is a process, into a file. So that's easy to see how that's done. Let's just take a quick look so that you have a feel for what happens. So let me clear this, and let's just take a simple command like ls. Right, ls, when you hit ls return, you get all this output. Well, let's say you want to save this list of files in another file. So you can do something like this: ls space greater than, and make it a file name that's going to be descriptive, list of files. Okay. Alright, so what I'm doing is I'm saying, instead of displaying the output of ls right in this terminal, take that output and put it into a file. Okay, so when you actually run this, you get no output. So remember, with just plain ls, you get this output displayed in the terminal. Now you get nothing, but you do get this file called list of files, which is what you called it. And if you cat it, that is, you list the contents of it, it's a list of all the files in the current directory, including the file that you just created. List of files. Sometimes you don't want that, so you can use various tricks to avoid this, but usually you don't want to list. You don't want to do something like ls and then write it to the same directory. You write it to a different directory. Okay. So anyway, the idea is just that you can take any command, let's say who, and you can take the output of that command and put it into a file. Now you have a file called list of users. Cat this file, and you will see exactly what you would have seen if you had typed in the command who. Okay, so that's basically output redirection. You're redirecting output from of a process from the terminal and putting it into a file. You can also do the opposite. You can use a file as input to some other program that's running. So when we say process, and you'll see this term quite a bit, what we mean is any executable program that's currently running. This could be a shell command, an application program, or a program that you have written. Later on we will do this. We will write shell scripts, we will write C programs, and you will take the output of your program, put it into a file, or get input from a file and put that into your C program that's running, stuff like that. Okay, the redirection operators are instructions to the shell and are not part of the command syntax. So when we did ls space greater than file, that was not part of the ls command. And when we did who space greater than list of users, that definitely is not part of the who command. That's outside the who command. It's common to all commands. You can think of it like that. Okay. Redirection is temporary. There are situations where you make it a little bit more permanent, but for now just think of redirection as being temporary and effective only with the command using it. Okay. Output redirection allows you to store the output of a process in a file. We just saw that with ls command. So we said ls space list of files, so mydir.list. And as we saw, if you type something like this ls, the output of the ls will actually show that there is a file called mydir.list, even if there wasn't before you type in this command. Okay. So once you do this, once you redirect the output of a program or a process into a file, then you can edit it, print it. So if you need, for example, to show someone that these are the files in a particular folder, that's all you have to do, ls space greater than, and you can print it out or email it, whatever. Now it turns out there's one more operator that you can use. The one that we used is the greater than, which will pretty much always work. There's also double greater than without a space, greater greater. And what this does is append. So these two basically do the same thing, except that the greater greater appends to an existing file. Okay. So let's take a quick look at this. If you say ls space and then file name, if that specific file name already exists, then it's written over, that's wiped out, and the contents of the existing file are lost. If that file name does not exist, and that's what happened before, the shell creates a new file with this name. The double greater than sign, greater greater, that's a redirection operator that works the same as the greater than sign, except that it appends output to the specified file. So let's take a look at that. So we have a couple of files that we created, list of files and list of users. And now let's say I can do something like this, who greater greater list of file. Oops, almost messed up. Okay, so we have a list of files in this file called list of files. Now I'm going to take the output of who and append it to that list of files. Before we do that, let's just cat it out. List of files. It's just a list of files. All right. And so suppose I want to append a list of users. To that list of files. That's what I do, and now let's cat it. And there are the list of files plus the list of users. So all I did was append onto the end of that. So let me remove those files. And remove list of users. Okay, remember, remove, you cannot undo it. It's gone. So if this was an important file, it's, well, we're out of luck, it's gone. Okay, so once again, if I say ls space, and let's call it my list. Now, you can see that my list file, it has 152 characters in it. And then we can say who, for example, or just something simple like pwd. That might be useful to say that this is where I am. Okay. Now, remember that my list was 152 characters before we executed pwd. Let's see what it is now. It's 163. It's become bigger. Cat my list, and there it is, our list of files and directories plus the current working directory. You might actually want to do it the other way around, so remove this my list, and you can do something like this, cat, and this is in the book and in the notes. I'll go over this in more detail. You can do something like this. So now what's happening now is that it's waiting for you to type in something. Okay, so this is a list of files in the directory. I hit return. I'm gonna hit Control D to stop that. All right. So take a look at this file called mylist. This is a list of files in the directory. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say pwd append that to mylist. Okay, so all I did was there was an existing file. I appended the output of pwd into that. Let's cat it. And now it'll be a little bit different. Before it was just one line, now it's got 2 lines. Alright, so this says this is a list of files in the directory /home/uwrf. And now I want to ls and append that to mylist. Alright, and now let's take a look at this. Let's view mylist. And look at that. So this says this is a list of files in the directory, and you might want to just have this join up with here, and oops, oh, it's a read-only file. Okay, let's not do that. So this is fine. Everything works. You can, for example, use this cat greater than to start with some text that you want to go into a file, then append the output of pwd, and then append the output of ls into that same file. Okay, so when you say ls greater space greater the greater and the name of a file, it adds the file names into that working directory, into that file. Okay, so just like you do output redirection, you can do input redirection. For now we will just use the less than sign. So we did cat greater than and the name of a file. That takes the keyboard input and puts that into the file. If you do cat less than and then the name of a file, all it does is the same thing as if you did not have the less than sign. Okay, let's take a quick look at that. So just like you can view a file, you can also cat it. Alright, and then you can also do cat less than in the same file, and it does exactly the same thing. There's no difference. So it's kind of hard to tell which one was which, but cat less than, name of a file, all it does is list the contents of that file. It reads it in, because that's, you're saying, take as input for the cat command this file, and all cat does is list it anyway, so it doesn't make a difference. Okay, so it's, in that case, it's not particularly useful, but we will see situations where this is very useful. Okay, so if you say cat my first or any kind of file, assuming that that file exists, it just displays it. You can say cat -n to show that same file with line numbers. Let's take a look at that. So cat -n mylist shows you the exact same thing with line numbers. Okay, so let's take a break, try out these various options for input redirection, output redirection, and we'll pick up from here in the next video.